Sri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Sri Sadguru Paramatmane Namaha. Sarva Maharshibhyo Namaha. 51st Sloka. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janmabandha vinirmuktaha padam gachyanta namayam. Substance. Wise men endowed with equanimity, having abandoned the fruits of action, go to the abode beyond all sorrow and evil. Commentary. Manisha means knowledge. He who possesses discrimination and true knowledge has no concern or use for the fruits of action. It follows that discrimination is necessary to understand the principle of right action. The man who has properly understood the bondage arising from work done with desire and attachment, and the great good arising from doing work without attachment and desire, is alone fit to ascend to the abode of peace and blessedness beyond all evil and sorrow. And through discrimination alone can man work without attachment. When the mind is purified by Nishkama Karma, knowledge of Atma dawns, by which man is permanently released from the cycle of birth and death caused by the karma. So we understand how Karma Yoga leads to final liberation. Some people may doubt how karma could lead to liberation. The Lord clears his doubt here. He affirms that the man who practices Nishkama Karma will certainly attain the pure, sorrowless state of absolute freedom, that is moksha. Released from the bonds of birth and death means every thoughtful human being is instinctively seeking for freedom from the ills of life. The Lord here points out the easiest path. He is addressing all mankind. O ye bound souls, if you desire for the freedom from the bondage of samsara, if you seek for the joy and blessedness of spiritual life, do all your duties, whatever they be, without attachment for the fruits thereof. Surrender them to the Supreme Lord. Your mind will then become pure. Then the knowledge of Atma dawns off on its own. The moment you experience the Atmic state, you become free and free forever. Whether a person is free from attachment or not is the real test of wisdom. Scholarship, power of speech, expounding the Vedic texts, these are for the delight of the learned only. They are of little use unless the man is capable of discriminating the real from the unreal and rejecting the unreal through Buddhi Yoga. Go to the abode free from sorrow. People speak of many positions in the world. They say that an emperor holds the high position. They say that Indra is the lord of heaven. Though they are in very high positions, still the occupants are caught in the wheel of samsara. They have birth and death, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain. There is only one state, one position, where there is not the least touch of pain or sorrow, where it is all an ocean of supreme bliss. And that position is the Atma state, the domain of the Brahma Gnana. How to attain it? The Lord shows the path here. Do your duty without attachment and desire for the fruits thereof. That is the secret of Karma Yoga, and its consummation is Brahmagnana. Question. What is the sign of a great man? Answer. The ability to perform Nishkama Karma is the distinguishing sign of a great man. Question. What will he attain? Answer. Emancipation and moksha. Question. What is moksha? Answer. It is freedom from samsara, from the cycle of birth and death. The Lord states when liberation is attained. 52nd Sloka. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavyasya srutasya cha. Substance. When your mind crosses the mere of delusion, you will then attain to indifference of what has been heard and what has to be heard. Commentary. The aim of human individual is to cross the mire of delusion, the darkness of ignorance. This ignorance and delusion is called philosophical terminology Maya or nature. Beyond darkness is Atma, the abode of light. The Vedas declare it so. Tamasastu pare. To reach that realm of light, one has to cross the ocean of darkness and go beyond sorrow and delusion, shoka and moha. Through nishkama karma, through hearing the truth, through concentration and meditation on the truth, one should realize the light of Atma. When he arrives at this state, he is filled with the bliss of Atma and he has no further need to hear or think of the Shastras. He becomes indifferent to them. One should understand that this is spoken of about men of self realization. The seeker should continue to hear the truth enshrined in the Vedas and the Shastras till he attains the higher state of direct perception of the reality. Mire of delusion means the impure tendencies, vasanas stagnating in the mind through several births or the mire of delusion. It is the duty of the seeker to purify himself by spiritual practices like nishkama karma and enquiry into the self. 53rd sloka. श्रुतिविप्रतिपन्नाते यथा स्थास्यति निश्चला समाधावचला बुद्धिः तदा yogam avapsyasi. When your intellect, which is perplexed by hearing the various shastras, becomes steady and immovable in ecstatic concentration, then you shall attain union with the Supreme Being. Commentary. Naturally, the seeker in the initial stages is distracted by the innumerable rites and rituals mentioned in the Vedas for the purpose of acquiring material pleasures and prosperity. The mind is distracted by the impulse of the mind, by the outgoing power of the senses, and in contact with physical objects. Such distraction is a great obstacle to self realization. By the practice of discrimination and nishkama karma, these distractions gradually disappear. The mind is then calm and collected because it has then overcome the tendency to run after material things. It is gradually fixed in the self state and man experiences the bliss of self realization. That is yoga. Yoga means union of the individual self with the Supreme Being. The ego, which keeps up the delusion of being a separate quantity, is merged in its own source, that is, self. And then there remains only be one Atma and not the two distinct entities as imagined by the deluded mind. Like a bit of salt being dissolved in the ocean, the ego dissolves itself in the ocean of Satchit Ananda. Then there is supreme peace of blessedness. Till that consummation, the mind is troubled. When yoga takes place, there is no mind or ego existing separately from the Supreme Being. The mind becomes still and immovable because it has become one with that. Then it is all one indivisible ocean of bliss and blessedness. So long as the mind is unsteady, yoga, union with the self, cannot happen. That is why the Lord insists on immovable steadiness of mind, nischala, achala. If the hand is shaking, it is impossible to pass the thread through the eye of the needle. So also, if the mind is split and fragmented, it cannot enter the Atmic plane. Therefore, the seeker should hear of Atma and endeavor to think and meditate on that. He should listen for a brief while and spend more time in concentration and meditation. This is the way. Moreover, rejecting the objective world as an illusion, he should look inside into the fathomless spirit, pure, calm, serene, and immovable. The more one practices this inward look, the nearer he moves towards Atma and further away from the superficial distractions of the material world. Thus, a moment arrives when the mind gets itself completely dissolved in Atma, in Samadhi. There is no time limit for this consummation. When the mind becomes perfectly still and motionless and is turned inwards, Samadhi is reached, and immediately man attains liberation by the knowledge of his real self. Question: when does man attain yoga? Answer: when the intellect is pure and steady in ecstatic concentration, union with the self takes place.